What is Wonder Woman's worst weapon?
What is Wonder Woman's worst weapon, Jacques?
Her lasso. See, it's the inflection that really sells it there. Hey, Biff, I just had a dentist appointment the other day. My kids had a dentist appointment. Do you know what the dentist said the worst thing for our teeth is?
Yeah. What's the worst thing for your teeth, Jacques?
A brick. A brick.
Why?
So we have no sideshow to plug, and we're gonna have to come up with some. A while back, you had a list of them, and they were fun. So we should create a list, because I'm gonna have time on my hands the next few weeks to record with management, doing an international tour, her second international leg of her Follow Duran Duran on the world tour. This time she went to Ibiza, phase 1, phase 2. She's taking our little guy to the land of potatoes, Ireland.
That's cool.
Yes or no? Is it a rumor? Is Bono really on the $1 bill in Ireland? We'll find out. I guess we'll find out. And then when she gets back, she's got to go to Chicago for a couple of weeks, which I will talk about.
It is kind of ironic that you refer to them as a land of potatoes, because isn't potato a new world crop?
I really think it is. All I know is, and we'll get right into it, I think the highlight for our good friend Crazy Legs at the Phoenix Desert Classic tournament was, he's heard rumors before, but he got to see in person me use French fries to eat mashed potatoes.
Right. The potato dipped potato.
He heard those rumors, but the Yeti, Bigfoot, women's orgasms, it was just one of those urban legends that he didn't think was real, and now he got to see it for himself. Of course, he took a photo, but it was kind of fuzzy and blurry, kind of in the background.
Right, because it's just like Bigfoot.
Exactly.
Just like Sasquatch.
So I'll put it right out there. Yes or no? The true highlight was my second assist on the one goal the John Taylor Fertilizer Hockey Franchise LLC Incorporated was able to muster in our 3 games.
Was there really a highlight? I almost think that the highlight for me was, Tim standing in front of the doorway in our locker room, where right above the doorway it says alcohol absolutely prohibited or something like that. I think that was the moment, and he's holding a bottle of beer, with All-Star in the background, also with a bottle of beer. So I think that's my highlight.
I like to point out, it is a team sport. You win as a team, you lose a team. Yeah. I just want to say we were just 22 saves away from breaking even in this tournament.
No, it's not that much, because we can lose the second game all we want, right?
Yep.
So I think it's more like we lost the first game 8-0, so really more like 9 saves.
Okay,
10 saves, right?
And of course, Guitar Center Scotty.
Actually, wait a minute. 10 saves. Yeah, 10 saves. That's correct.
Guitar Center Scotty screwed us over 2 ways. He plays the "I'm going to be a good dad, stay home and go to my kids' tournaments" card, which is total bullshit. And secondly, he was to give me a goal scoring stick for the tournament. And not only did he not give me a goal scoring stick, as we talked about in text today, he gave me a stick with tape on the blade. Seriously.
Seriously, could I ask you something?
Sure.
When was the last time you scored a goal that was not during warm-ups to an empty net?
Let's see. Wait, what is your administration?
Definitely not this decade, right? Nothing in the 2020s.
Well, let's just say this: if you had bought stock on that day in Apple computers, you would have retired by now. Pre-Bitcoin, Bitcoin wasn't
a goal. Have you scored an actual goal since Squishy was born? That's kind of my question. And, I'm not sure if that's happened. So,
wait, on this continent? No, it hasn't.
Okay.
So, one of the other highlights is, you've heard the story, but I'll throw it out there. management and I, with our two beautiful sons, almost became management and I with our three beautiful sons, as I almost came home with a toddler. Did you hear? You heard the story? So I have
not heard the story, actually. No.
Oh, you really have? All right. I'm sitting in the suite with the founder of the John Taylor Fertilizer Hockey Franchise Incorporated LLC, with our good friend Blind Squirrel, who, by the way, huge shout out. I mean, for him to come down from Sacramento just to hang out with us, first of all, huge shout out. It was amazing to see him. It was really great. It was great that his, much better half.
Him and his better half, absolutely. Yep.
But it was just fantastic to see everybody. But for him not even playing to make it was great. But we're sitting in the suite, and I'm on the other side of the living area, looking towards the sliding glass door with the shade that's 90% shut. And I see kind of my blue jersey kind of fluttering. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't own a blue jersey. And you heard this the faintest of tapping on the sliding glass door. Mr. John C gets up, opens it, and in walks. Right. He's 2 years old. I don't think he's 2 years old. Cute, and honestly, could fit in with either Crazy Legs family's pretty good, my family pretty good. Just this little blonde hair, blue eyed kid in his bathing suit, holding his blue floaty jacket. Not scared, not confused. He's just walks on in, and we're like, okay, well, I think we should find this kid's mom and open the door, and you can see, it's Pleasant Valley Sunday, where it all looks the same, and the kid must have got turned around, and a few doors down on their back porch, you can see another hockey bag airing out on the patio furniture. And I'm like, and John's standing in our deck, and he's, I'm like, hey, come on, buddy. And it's like, I signal him to follow me. I will not take him by the hand, as I've said many times. My DNA was not going to be anywhere on that kid when they find the body. If he wanders off again and knocks on their sliding glass door that's half open, and a young lady, early 30-ish from the bathroom says, confused, hello. And I'm like, hey, do you have a kid? And instantly that mom energy of, I have two kids, she says, as she comes sprinting out of the bathroom from the other side of their suite. And it's like, with her little daughter behind her, I'm like, and by she gets to the back sliding glass door, I'm like, hey, is this little guy yours? She's like, yes, where did you find him? I'm like, he just came on over to hang out. And she's like, I thought he was upstairs with dad, as dad's coming downstairs to see what the commotion is. And they're all, have their bathing suits on, obviously going to the pool, and John waves from our balcony just saying hi, and we all had like a nice little laugh, and she was thankful, and there was going to be two conversations as soon as we left, and that was a stranger danger conversation, which if a small child is not scared by my Muppet looking appearance, with the scraggly hair and the scruff,
we kind of want to know what Uncle Joe looks like.
Yeah, exactly. So the stranger danger conversation and the I thought you were watching him, what's wrong with you conversation, which we've all had that talk before.
Well, I'm glad you didn't take the kid, because the last thing I really need is to see my own license plate on an envelope.
But it was, the team dinner, which was always a highlight, which again, the fundraising, I think John must have held a car wash in order to scrape together the he must have in Manhattan Beach one weekend, him and his missus had a car wash to come up with that.
But definitely thank you for paying for a dinner that he didn't attend.
Not only did he pay for it, I got the Sky Miles points out of it. So it was really a win. It was really a win-win. But it was great to see everybody after 2 years of, not seeing anyone because of COVID and all this. And
no, absolutely.
New additions to the team, such as Al, friend of the podcast, Al the Toy Man, made on. But honestly, it was absolutely great. You got any thoughts on the whole tournament before we move off?
I mean, I think mostly exactly what you said. I mean, so obviously a lot of the guys I see more regularly because I'm here and whatever. But that whole kind of the weekend of social events feel that we haven't really had in a while. I think that's really the highlight, right? And it was great to see the family members. Once again, I've seen some of the better halves at Kings games and whatnot. But yeah, just that whole overall feel of, hey, everybody's kind of here and still not 100% normal, but we're kind of partway there.
And think about it. So we got guys driving in from Utah, flying in from Colorado, coming down from Sacramento. I mean, it was really nice to see so many people make such an effort to get there. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And next year I have a feeling I'm going to work my ass off, and next year we're going to score 2 goals collectively as a team. I feel it. I feel that we're going to have.
I think maybe you should work on being able to essentially, sit in a car without excruciating knee pain. I think that's a good life goal for
you. Baby steps, Biff. So my trip overall, was a lot of fun. And I got to say, I took my 14-year-old who is always a little food driven, and he romanticized his time and the food options in LA. But
Right.
after not having been there for several years, him and me for a few years, it's true. Like, he fell in love with Korean corn dogs on a trip to New York recently. And there's one place here.
Wait, they have Korean corn dogs with veggie dogs?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And there's one place in the mall about 40 minutes from us, and they have just the weirdest hours because they can't keep supply. And it's this new fad around here. And if you get one, you can only get one. That's how limited supply they are.
Goodness.
So, yeah.
My goodness.
So the fact that, he had found a couple places, there's a place, Melrose, and I forget the cross street, a place called Mr. Charlie's, which is a knockoff McDonald's. It's all vegan.
Right.
And it's fun to get, a Happy Meal with a Impossible Burger, and they use the same buns and pickles and all that.
Right.
I haven't had a McDonald's, hamburger in 30 years, and instantly, like, that feel and the size of the burger and everything, I don't know how they get away with it. I don't know if it's branded or they paid some kind of, or they just skirt the line. They're just close enough, but they're not. And they're only one location. Is it really worth the time to shut them down, so to speak?
Well, yeah, because in Japan there is this one thing that looks like people essentially post this on the social, say, what's wrong with the Japanese with the freaky clown? What kind of a French fries? It's actually like a bar that essentially kind of made themselves out with the McDonald's kind of colors and patterns and the clown, and the Westerners who can't read Japanese are saying, what kind of a crazy shit is this? Yeah, it's not crazy shit. It's just a rip-off bar, a little small bar doing this rip-off thing.
That's under the radar. So it is. When we rank the things why we're looking to maybe make some major life changes, relocation, which, by the way, I'm sorting through old comics, and I talked to the guy at the local store. I'm like, hey, I just want to dump a bunch of stuff. Can I get store credit if I bring in these 5,000 old comics? And it's like, sure, I'll go through them. And if there's any really worth something, I'll let you know before I do it. But I'm getting ready to do that. But when I think about, the food choices there are, and I'm talking, for you just take it for granted, like the Jack in the Box, the In and Out.
It's, what it is? Oh, Jack in the Box and In and Out. Yeah. Yeah, whatever. No, I mean, I don't take it for granted, but it's more along the lines of, I obviously am not happy about the amount of taxes I paid than I would, relatively speaking, with other states and all that. It's all that kind of stuff, right? But I know that tax is a tax that I pay so I could live here, right? And and everything else, right? So living here is not just about the weather, and it's not just about it's a bunch of things.
For my kid, it is the food options, and it's my friends with huge houses. and a huge shout out to our friend Renatezky, who hands down just couldn't
great to see her
be a more gracious. Well, that was I a big shout out to my friend Greg Grunberg and Brett Savage, who I'm doing a couple projects with, who have a great studio and a soundstage in North Hollywood, who I'm like, hey, there's a bunch of friends I won't be able to drive around and see, and I'd like to put them all in one room. And they're like, yeah, just have it here. And you got to meet in person, Sally Mullins.
That was awesome. Also, yeah.
Yeah,
and of course, and we got to see Woody.
it was great to see. We haven't seen him in a long time, so that was fun. And I had another meeting there, but in between that, one friend of mine, a friend of yours. I'm sorry, I apologize. I misspoke. Our friend Ronak, who, it was like the first day here. My little guy and I drive over, and she owns like Rudolph Valentino's old house, or should I say, palatial estate? Which she has to move into her guest apartment a couple times a month because Vanity Fair wants to shoot there, Vogue wants to shoot there. It's gorgeous. And another friend of mine, who we'll have on the podcast soon, my friend Bill, who created Legendary Pictures. I don't know if you know off the top of your head, because he's an old vaudevillian, big 30s, 40s, 50s actor, a guy named Joe E. Brown.
Oh, yeah. He's a gangster character actor kind of a guy, right? Doesn't he play a lot of gangsters?
He played everything. He was in the first.
He's got the gangster face.
Color film musical in 1929. The Show Must Go On, I think it was. But his most famous line, and one of the more famous lines in all of movie lore, is the last line from the movie Some Like It Hot, in which Kirk Douglas is in drag the whole time. It's a big scheme, and Joey Brown's character falls in love, and he's relentlessly trying to get this guy to marry him that he doesn't realize isn't a woman. And finally they're on this boat that they're driving, and he takes a wig off. He goes, "I can't marry you, I'm a man." And he says, and Joey Brown's famous line, "Well, nobody's perfect." Which you think how at the time it was just a joke, but it was the movie was directed by Billy Wilde, and that was an intentional kind of, hey, let's slip past this in a time when, if people really took the math on it, it was like, yeah. Anyways, it was great. It's a funny life, but the point is, he has a gigantic house. And when my little guy, who was so happy to stay at our friend Renatezky's house, who's so gracious, and we have her car, but leaving that place, can't we live with one of your friends who has a mansion? And when I said to Bill when I was leaving, a couple days before I headed to Phoenix, he goes, "What's the plan the rest of the week?" I said, "Well, my friend Biff's picking me up. We're going to drive to Phoenix. I'm going to leave him here," pointing to my son. And he looked at me jokingly, confusingly, and points to his house and says, "Here? You're leaving him here at my house?" To which I said, "If I left him here, would you even know?" And I'm like, "Yes or no? There are wings on this house that you haven't walked down in the last year." Which he admitted, yes, there are that. So it was a great time being out there. It was a great time driving with you. It was a great time going through Otisburg again. We made it without breaking down, running out of gas, no flat tires. It was great.
Yeah, that's why we don't talk about it beforehand.
No traffic.
Freaking jinx our stupid car ride. So yeah.
And so in the car ride, Biff and I were talking about, so we both have a lot of things in our lives that are similar, but both have different challenges. Like, for instance, Biff has a challenge with his pool, as in, I don't know what challenges you have with your pool, but I know mine still isn't open. Still, we've in the last 4 weeks, it's taken the cover off, had an electrician out to redo the wiring, had to buy a new pump, that then had the electrician had to come back, that had to have the handy guy come and try to fix it, which resulted in a net gain of 0. And I think out of either the goodness of his heart, or he's just tired of looking over the fence and seeing his beautiful property value be brought down by Shrek living in his next door neighbor with our green pool. Our neighbor came over today. He spent 2 hours in the rain trying to get it going. He's like, "Well, I'm just going to take this pump back to the store and see what part is wrong," and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, "No, you don't have to do that, man." He goes, "No, I really," he's retired. And my wife's like, "He likes to do this stuff. Let him." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we paid all these people hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point." And like we talked on the trip, I don't know how many discussions I've won or how many debates I've won with management, but I was voted down.
Let me tell you the answer to that.
Okay.
0.
Yeah, I was voted down again 1-1 on, hey, you're traveling to Ibiza, Ireland, London, and for Duran and Chicago this summer. The boys and I are spending most of the summer in LA. Why don't we not open the pool? And she heard, let's quickly open the pool and throw as much money in as we can and never use it. So you have a pool, but you don't have these problems.
Yeah, well, for one thing, there opening a pool is not a thing. The open pool is perpetually open. You only need to open things that close.
Right.
There's no closing of the pool. So that's part of it. And then there's the whole, saltwater pool. What the hell? So, yeah.
Another decision. But I will say things are looking up, and over the next month, over the next few weeks anyways, whether I can drag them back into podcast hell with me or not, I'm not sure. But management is going, out of town for this trip to see Duran, and then for work going to Chicago for 2 weeks, which means Joe and I will be having Match Game 1973 marathon viewings and watching a bunch of movies, and there's a bunch of specials that we've talked about on the last podcast that I haven't seen yet that I've been waiting to binge watch with him, like the Norm Macdonald one, the George Carlin one, Ricky Gervais has a new one. So get ready for a lot of talk about Match Game and 1968 game shows.
Yeah.
Which
Sure.
So we're talking now. Is the war in Ukraine still going on? Because it's completely cycled out of the news.
Well, it hasn't completely cycled out, but yeah, it's not it is. It doesn't have this. We only have so much of an attention span in this country, so yes.
And there's a meme that's been going around, and it's a guy sitting at a table with 2 chairs, and looks like somewhere in like Central Park, and there's a sign that people paint different things on. It's like, da 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 da, prove me wrong. Da 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 da, prove me wrong. Right. Star Wars is better than Star Trek. Prove me wrong. Yeah, right. So I'm going to play that game with you, Biff. And I've been saying this for many years, and each and every day, I think it's harder and harder to make an argument against. The GOP is a terrorist organization. Prove me wrong.
Right. Yeah. I'm not that savvy of a debater, Jacques. I don't think I could take on that debate.
Which debate over, which horrible gun incident? The answer isn't more guns.
Yeah, I am ready to do this though, because we've gone through this so many times and we have no movements, right?
Yep.
So I am prepared to say, you know what? Let's talk about not guns, and I'm prepared to say this. Okay, I'm not going to say the G word, because as soon as you say the G word, everything seems to shut down. So I'm going to say this. How about if we say, any kind of a threat made online or anywhere is a felony? And then, if you have a felony, that on its own triggers other laws that prevent you from buying guns. So
except in the States that there's no laws about anybody getting guns.
No, but I'm not saying that it's universal, right? But I'm saying that, so maybe that'll stop a few more. Like, I think New York will probably be a state where, that might trigger. And then, so you may not be able to legally buy that gun. Now, it may not have helped in, it may not have helped the hospital shooting in Texas, but it probably, and the school shooting in Uvalde, but maybe it would have stopped the Buffalo shooting, right? So maybe that's the baby step we can take. So we do stuff where we acknowledge that there. To be fair, right? If you're a person who thinks it's okay to go into a place and just shoot people you may not even know, right, and kill them, I think that on its own kind of defines that there is that undesirable that nobody likes. So maybe we start with First Amendment be damned. We start with these if you make online threats, that we could turn that into a felony and lock you up, and at least it'll buy us some time.
Well, I mean, and don't forget, they're and we'll end it right, here, if you got any thoughts after this. But the thing is, they're trying to make it legal to be able to say whatever you want, whenever you want. They're trying to say the First Amendment is absolute, that you can. It's your freedom of speech to run into a movie theater and yell fire. They're trying to make it a freedom of speech that, hey, planning to overthrow the government January 6th, 2020 is 100% your right to do, or 2021, sorry, go ahead. And the whole thing is like you said, okay, you know what? We're not going to control G's at all. You say it's a mental health issue. I'll agree with you. So what you're saying is there should be an extensive mental health screening before you get such a item. And then, of course, the idea, is no. So, but that's why they're a terrorist organization.
It's not even even before we go into mental health screening. I mean, they don't want to pay for mental health care, right? We don't want to say, well, we don't have national health insurance, but maybe we need to do something to get these people mental health care, right? But obviously at the same time, we're like Texas is loosening gun acquisition laws. They're also killing, right, funding for mental health programs, right? So
but the whole thing, when they try to say it's not the G word, it's mental health, and then you turn around and say, okay, then let's get mental health screening before you get a gun. No, because then we have to pay
because you use the G word.
Right, exactly. Now, but your homeland, your first homeland, not your second homeland. Your second homeland is moving straight ahead with sensible laws on such items. Justin Trudeau is not afraid of and a country that per capita they have more firearms than we do here, but they're not. They're saying, enough of this. Enough of this.
They also have polar bears, so and polar bears
do. Yes,
moose, so
yes, they do.
So I mean,
and but your homeland of Japan is not crime free.
No. I mean, I don't know if you saw the video of these the horrific scenes of violence against police, but I'm just shocked that the Blue Lives Matter movement has not started in Japan with a kind of crime that's going on. So I don't know if you saw these. Was
that actual footage, or was that a spy movie where the motorcycle has a smoke screen button that they can hit?
It's actually so as these these individuals on these little, I think they were more, kind of like scooters. It seemed they look like scooters. Were essentially vandalizing. They did it intentionally to bait the police into chasing them, and then when the police started chasing them, they essentially sprayed fire extinguisher at the police.
Oh, was that what it was? Because when you see those mopeds, it makes me think, hey, what does mopeds and having sex with ugly chicks have in common? What does mopeds and having sex with ugly chicks have in common?
They're both fun until somebody catches you doing it. Whatever.
Both fun to ride you, Frenzy, on them. Thank you. I'll show myself out. No, but I couldn't tell it was a fire extinguisher, but all of a sudden it looked like something.
You see the little smoke thing coming out. What the hell is that?
Like a James Bond thing.
Right. And unless you actually understood Japanese, you still wouldn't understand what that is. So that's what that is. Yeah, I mean, freaking. So, one thing, they do that shit in Japan because, they don't have guns to shoot at the police. And the police don't, shoot at these pedestrians, these bikers, because most of them aren't carrying guns either. So there you go.
So I was in a pitch meeting while I was out in LA, and somebody pitched doing a U.S. version of a BBC show that profiles a company or companies and people in Japan that legally help you disappear. Have you heard about this?
I have not.
I guess it's a long running BBC show, like hundreds of episodes. So in Japan, as long as you're not breaking the law and you just want to leave your life, just completely, essentially go into a quasi witness relocation program, Like you can't leave your family with like debt and all this stuff. But if you decide, yeah, I don't want to have a wife and kids anymore, I just want to leave. There's a company. I guess it's completely legal as long as you're not breaking any laws. And there's companies that this show follows that help you just disappear.
Okay.
Just one day you're there and then one day you're not. Just delete traces of you, all the way across. And the interesting thing, and it's like funny because I always heard about other shows like, oh, this show's from Japan and this show was a show in Denmark and all these, when people like, well, how do we twist it around and completely use somebody else's idea and make it our own version of it. But so we've been doing a lot of looking into this phenomena. I'll post the name of the show, the BBC show, but it's like I said, it's a BBC show that profiles these Japanese companies that help people just disappear.
Yeah.
So it makes me think, are you one of these people? Did I randomly find you? Did you? I mean, I don't know that your quote unquote father moved you to Toronto when you were 12. That sounds completely plausible, but do we really know?
I mean, why don't you do your investigation in Japan and see if there's something that I have to hide over there?
Between you and our friend Hafen, I don't know. There's a lot of mysteriousness in the past and the present. And speaking of present, how is the never-ending gift of NHL playoffs treating you, Biff?
It's I mean, all in all, pretty fun playoffs, right? I mean, it was kind of disappointing that the Battle of Alberta kind of ended as quickly as it did. Calgary was kind of a no-show. I was surprised how not great they were. I thought a Daryl Sutter team would be a little bit more disciplined and hard to play against and all that. But part of it is that they don't quite have the skating ability to keep up with the Oilers. And then the Oilers finally kind of are learning that, hey, you kind of have to work a little bit harder instead of just like playing pickup style hockey to actually win in the playoffs. So I've heard several people say that the LA Kings helped the Oilers by forcing them to kind of play playoff hockey. So, kudos to the Kings for potentially starting a dynasty. But
no, it's true. It's one of those things where you hear when the Edmonton Oilers in the 1979-80 season.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And here's Gretzky walking past the locker room of the 4-time Stanley Cup winning champ, and they're in there just icing things down and this, and it's like, and they, granted, I don't know, Toronto and Edmonton the last couple of years have, and you got to throw Washington in with Ovechkin, which hurts to say, but those three teams with their absolute highlight goals and jaw-dropping scoring ability are mesmerizing at the end of the day, unless your highlight reel includes like some great back checking plays and some
but I mean, to be fair, right? I mean, listen, that's what it took. Washington won their Stanley Cup because they became that team, right? Right. I mean, so, and Toronto's learning. I mean, this Game 7 loss again, to lose that Game 7 against the champs, isn't as shameful. It's not because they didn't play playoff hockey. It's just that they were playing against a team that really knows how to play playoff hockey, right?
No, indeed.
Yeah. And so it's really Florida that's learning this, right? Florida, President's Trophy winner, most goals scored in a season since 1995 or something, swept in 4 games, scores 3 goals in the entire series, right?
Honestly, I bet it's an easy stat to find, but over the last 40 years, how many President Trophy winning teams got out of the second round?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last team to win the Stanley Cup was, I think, Chicago. Was it 2013? I think they won the President's Trophy and won the Cup. So,
as a lifelong Bruins fan, I cannot tell you how many times how many times they won the President's Trophy in the 80s and were out in the first round by fourth place Montreal. You know what I mean? Or
there was that weird period where, and I don't know. I mean, so obviously when Patrick Roy showed up, all bets were off. But even before Roy, they would lose, against, and I couldn't figure out why.
No, it was
yeah.
I mean, and that's why when the Bruins finally did win the Cup in 2011, just like the Red Sox winning the World Series in 2004, it was great, but it meant so much more that you had to go through the Yankees to do it, or that you had to go through Montreal to do it.
That's the Capital story, right? They finally killed the dragon that is the Penguins. They finally slayed that dragon, and then they get their cup. Right?
It's funny in winning time. When Jerry West, after losing in the NBA championships like 7 or 8 times, finally wins an NBA championship. But it's an empty thing because the Celtics had lost in the conference championship in the East. So he didn't get to beat the Celtics. And it was kind of an empty victory, type thing for him. So speaking of winning time, I'll admit it, completely bandwagon. I'm completely a bandwagon a Celtics follower. I'm not going to say fan, but I will say follower. And, just listening to sports radio the last few years, I know all the players. I know, how Danny Ainge has put this team together. I know the ups and the downs.
Danny Ainge? Really? I'm so clueless. I had no clue.
Oh no, he's been the GM and president of the Celtics for, I don't know, almost 20 years. And just this year he went home to Utah. Like the Utah Jazz basically gave him the Godfather, you can't say no offer. Plus he wanted, as much as Boston has been his home for 40 years, like it was, he wanted to go back to the land of his people, the chosen people, if the third book of the Bible is your book of the Bible. And so anyways,
BYU legend, Danny
Ainge. I will say,
2-sport star, former Blue Jay,
second base, Toronto Blue Jay. So he put this team together, so he gets a lot of credit. But I will say I was more interested in the first round than the finals, only because as a true Bostonian, my hate for certain things trumps my love for others. And as much as I, grew up loving the Celtics, and I really would love to break the tie with the Lakers to have the most banners and all that stuff, the fact that they beat Kyrie Irving in the first round was like, anything else after this is pure gravy.
I am clueless about the context. So,
Kyrie Irving came to the Celtics a few years ago and really screwed the franchise. And I won't go down, but at the same time, at least he's a flat earth anti-vaxxer. And
I think I did know that. I did know that part of it. But wait, is he so who does he play for now?
He plays for the Nets. The Brooklyn Nets.
Okay.
Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, Brooklyn Nets. That's right. New Jersey Nets would have been more appropriate because they're kind of like the New York Giants.
And he did. He put together a super team that was supposed to, be the next juggernaut. It was one of those LeBron type things in Miami or the Lakers. Yep. And the fact that they got swept by the Celtics,
good for them.
But now the Celtics are in the finals. I will say, again, one of the highlights of the Phoenix tournament was watching Game 7, not just with the blind squirrel Ruger, but to have Patty and his wife who was cheering for the Celtics, and just it was nice. It was nice. I will say, I stand by the adage, and there are fewer cliches in sports truer than you only have to watch the last 2 minutes of a basketball game to see the whole thing. 100% that's the truth. 100%. Yeah. I mean, a lot of football games come down to one play or one possession, and so many games are close, and there's so much parity in all sports. I think a few weeks ago we talked about that there was 5 Game 7s in a course of like 32 hours in the NHL. Yep. 5 Game 7s.
Round one is always a lot of fun.
And I think all 5 or 4 of the 5 were 1-goal game. So there's a lot of parity. But basketball, it's like I've watched a few Celtics games through this run, and every single game, it's like, oh, somebody's up or down by 15 points with 4 minutes left. Doesn't mean shit. Just wait 2 minutes, and now with the 3-point shot and the fouls and all that stuff. But look, am I a huge fan? No. Am I going to be crushed if the Golden State Warriors, win this series? No. But it would be nice. It would be nice because I'm a spiteful little fuck to say, yep, we have more rings than the Lakers. But that's
congratulations.
Well, it's all me. Are you watching anything fun these days?
I'm watching the NHL playoffs.
That's what I figured. And nothing.
And the usual, in between, I'll watch the Japanese all-girl metal bands, and that's kind of
I've watched a couple of things. I finished watching season 2 of Hacks, which here's the funny thing about being in LA, of course. It's just the proximity to people that you watch on TV is so much like everybody's one step away from everybody. And I'm at my friend Ronak's like palatial mansion, and she asked me what I'm watching. I'm like, oh, I'm watching Hacks, and she's like, oh, that's my neighbor's show. And by my neighbor's show, the guy who created it, directs it, and is one of the members on it. And so I text her this morning, and I'm like, I know it's early AM your time, but can you do me a huge favor? Go next door and slap your neighbor and tell him to stop making Jacques feel feelings, because I didn't anticipate Niagara Falls a couple times on the show Hack season finale. All in a good way, but I watched that. I'm caught up in Barry, but I've, waiting to watch some movies and some comedy specials with Joe. I did watch a couple episodes of the new season of David Letterman, My Next Guest. And the story with Ryan Reynolds is fantastic. And they're hour long in people's homes, very personal, stories. And I saw the one with Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Ryan Reynolds. David Letterman is still the king. He is still, he's, can I say he's the white Oprah? I mean, he gets people to open up to him in really, really nice ways, and their guards are completely down, and you really get these real sense of it's almost in some cases like both of their insurance expired, so they're using these interviews as mutual therapy sessions, and the best ways. And I really mean that in all the best ways. But I really, really highly suggest, the latest season of David Letterman shows. And my 14-year-old, I had stopped it and went to the bedroom and dragged him out kicking and screaming. And I'm like, here, just watch this one part. And Ryan Reynolds is talking about, he went to college for 45 minutes. He got there, it was not for him, and he just drove straight down to Los Angeles to join the Growlings. And as he's saying that, my 14-year-old who's going to the Growlings this summer, he was like,
right. Yeah.
He instantly like, oh, this is one of my favorite actors and one of my dad's favorite actors, and we're going to have this in common, So I thought that was fun, but that's really it, as far as I'm watching. But I'll have some updates on some stuff after the next couple of weeks when I force Joe to come over and watch shit with me.
Yeah. I did see an episode of I think it's been going on for a while, but it's called, I think, Love and Robots, or it says Love and Robots in there.
Yeah.
And that's, that looks pretty good. So I'll probably try to pick that up once the season's over. Or every other day once we go into the, the actual Stanley Cup finals.
Right. You'll have every day off, your travel days. Travel days.
The travel days, yeah.
So you got a parenting tip for me there, Biff?
I just make sure that you're, and I think you have this really well, but make sure that the kids understand that dogs and cats are family. So I think that's an important one. And
yes,
treat them like family, right? They're not dogs. They're family.
Yeah, they're not furniture. They're not casual things, right?
Yeah.
You know, and they give so much and ask so little in return. So they are. So this week traveling with my 14-year-old, and it's the first time. I mean, we took a road trip, you know, like 3 years ago now, and you know, there's a big difference between being 11 and dad doing absolutely all the packing and all the decision making, and him. And he, you know, so just to keep it narrowly focused, this week's parenting tip: teach them how to pack to go through an airport efficiently. Seriously, everything that can come out of your pockets and into your backpack before you get into the security line should. You know, it's like, if you want to take your PS4 with you, and I am not one to judge, you know, you might want to pack that in a way that if it's a part of the carry-on, it's easy. And he did. It's easy to get out into a tray and easy to get back in. Or if you are going to check a bag, maybe check it so that you don't have, it's one less thing to take out, put on a tray, and put back in. So my parenting tip is, you know, teach them to be decent travelers, you know, for two reasons: to make going through the line easier on you, and to not be that prick who gets to the security line and has no idea that you can't bring a 1962 cartoon bowling ball looking bomb with a wick coming out of it, which is always one of my favorite signs at Logan Airport of the things you can't carry on. Is that, and that's it for me, Biff. So I'll let you drive the Zamboni home.
Drive the Zamboni home. Hey, my gosh, what a crazy couple weeks it's been in the news. And you know, and after we've gone through like a couple of years of absolute just nightmare 2 years of just garbage stuff all around, and so it's kind of really depressing to watch the news. It's depressing to, you know, go on social media. It's depressing to do all those stuff. But you know, despite all of that, one thing to really maintain your mental health is that you don't forget
Thank you. It's your motor red. We like to thank Alan. Your motor red. I'm gonna play a little ditty I call. What's your fucking place? Joe Lorenzo!
That was awesome, Dan. Say goodnight, Gracie.